So we already underlined the absolute value of a number is its distance from 0 on the number line. And we just said that distance is always positive. Okay? So absolute values have these two vertical lines on either side of the number. That's how you can tell its absolute value. So if I say the absolute value of 6, I want to know how far away from 0 is the number 6. And that's going to be 6 units. Okay? So write that down, 6 units. If I say the absolute value of -7, how far away from 0 is the number -7? If distance is always positive, it is 7 units. Okay? The absolute value of 0. How far away from 0 is 0? How many units away? It's 0 units. Okay? 0 is the only number that has only one case. Okay? Because 0 is in the middle, so it's 0. What's the absolute value of -4? How far away from 0 is -4? 4 units, right? And what's the absolute value of 4? 4. So here we want you to notice that we have two numbers that have the same distance apart from 0. So we have -4 and we have +4. Okay? So those are talking about the distances. Now we're trying to say, let's solve these equations. What is the value of x such that it has a distance of 5 away from 0? Okay? Well, there's actually going to be two cases, right? So we draw like this, these two little side lines, and we say x is equal to -5, because the -5 is 5 units away. And then we're going to say, or x is equal to +5. So when you have this variable inside, you're going to have two cases that are equal to that distance. Allie, put the phone away. So this has two cases. All right? So if I say the absolute value of C is 8, C is all by itself. I'm going to say C is equal to, what's the negative value? That's 8 units away from 0. Will be -8. And on the other side, C is equal to +8. And that should be or. Okay? The absolute value of R is equal to 3. That's going to be R is equal to -3. Good. Or R is equal to 3. And you're going right along and you say the absolute value of M is -3. And initially you want to say M is -3, but wait, absolute value is a distance. Can we have a distance of -3? No. So this is not possible. You cannot have an absolute value with a negative number. Okay? So what are our steps to solving these absolute values? Okay? Here we go. First, you want to undo any addition or subtraction outside the absolute values. So if it's outside those vertical lines, you want to undo any of that addition or subtraction. Okay? Second, you are going to undo any multiplication or division. Undo any multiplication or division outside of your absolute values. I'm going to abbreviate here. Absolute values. Okay? All right. Up next, you want to isolate the absolute value and create two cases. Meaning one's going to be set equal to the negative number and one's going to be set equal to the positive number. So we're going to isolate that absolute value, make sure all we have on one side of the equation is that absolute value. And then finally, we are going to solve for the variable in the two cases. So again, each of your answers is going to have two answers. Each of your problems is going to have two answers. Okay? Now, one other thing we want to talk about just briefly is this extraneous solution. What smaller word do you see in the word extraneous? Extra. Yeah, extra. So it's like an extra solution. So the extraneous solution is that each absolute value has two cases or two solutions, but, and that's a big but, one will not make sense in real life. Okay? One will not make sense in real life. So if we're talking about, I don't know, the absolute value of a distance that a train travels, you know, that distance could be, you know, negative 32 miles and 32 miles. But since you can't travel negative 32 miles with a train, it doesn't make any sense. So that would be your extraneous solution. Okay? It doesn't make sense. All right, so let's take a look at example 1. Says the absolute value of 2x plus 5 is equal to 15. All right, so let's look at our steps. We need to undo any addition or subtraction outside of the absolute values. Well, here are my absolute values, these two vertical lines. Do I have any addition or subtraction to do outside of those? No. Step 2, undo any multiplication or division outside of those absolute values. There's nothing to do there either. So we're already to step 3 for this problem. Okay? It says isolate the absolute value and create two cases. So I'm going to do this one line to the left and one line to the right, and it says the absolute value is equal to 15. Well, what are the two possible numbers that could be a distance of 15 away from 0? It could be negative 15, or it could be positive 15, right? So now that this is isolated, I'm going to say 2x plus 5, that part in that absolute value, is equal to the negative 15, because negative 15, that's a number that's 15 away. Or, and on the other side, you write 2x plus 5 is equal to positive 15. Okay? So it's almost like a twofer. You get now two problems to solve for absolute values instead of one. And now we just solve as you usually would. We're solving for x. So for this first one over here, and I put the negative one, I used to put the negative one always on the right, but since the negatives are on the left side, I was like, oh, let's put it on the left. So if I were to try to solve this equation, you subtract 5 over here. 5's cancel out. 2x is equal to negative 20. Divide by 2, and you get x is equal to negative 10. That's one of your solutions. Or, and now I solve the other one. Subtract 5, and you should get a different answer because the first one you're setting to the negative value, and the second one you're setting equal to the positive value. So 5's cancel out. 2x is equal to 10. Divide by 2, and x is equal to 5. So that is and shows your two solutions. Now, let's see, how in the heck can these actually work? They're two different numbers. They seem to be very different, right? So let's just do a check over here so you can see how this works. So I'm going to substitute negative 10 and 5 into that equation. So I'm going to say 2 times negative 10 plus 5, that should be equal to 15. 2 times negative 10 is negative 20. And negative 20 plus 5 is negative 15. Is the absolute value of negative 15, is negative 15 15 units away from 0? Yeah. So now let's do the other one using 5. So I'm going to say 2 times 5 plus 5 is equal to 15. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 5 is 15. That's still inside the absolute value. Is the number 15 units away from 0? Yes, it is. So that's why we have to have both of those solutions. Okay? Any questions on that first example? All right. Let's go to the next one. Oh, we got several here. Okay. Let's do letter A, just to start with. So we have absolute value 4x minus 3 at end of absolute value plus 8 is equal to 21. Now the key words you're going to hear me say over and over is isolate and separate. This absolute value is not isolated. It is not by itself. I need to get rid of that addition of 8. How do I undo that? Subtract 8. So subtract 8 from both sides of your equation. 8's cancel out. Now you have the absolute value of 4x minus 3 is equal to 13. Now it is isolated. This is the only thing on either side of the equation, right? So that is where I break it into the two cases. So over on the left, and this is where you can lose the absolute values. Once it's isolated, you lose those absolute values, those vertical lines. 4x minus 3, I'm first going to set it equal to the negative value, negative 13. And over here, 4x minus 3 is equal to the positive value. And then you just solve each of these individually. On the left, add 3, 4x is equal to negative 10. Divide by 4. And you get x is equal to, it's a negative, and can I simplify that? I can divide by 2 over 2, right? To get negative 5 halves. That's the first one. And yes, it's okay to leave it in fraction form, an improper form, okay? Don't change it to a decimal. Or, now solve the other side. Add 3, 4x is equal to 16, divide by 4, and x is equal to 4. So either one of those two solutions, if I would substitute those back in, is going to give you an answer of 13. Questions on that? All right, let's see here. Let's do letter D for sure. Jump down to D. It says 3 plus 5, and then it's got the absolute value of negative 2x plus 7, end of absolute value equals 18. What is happening with this 5 here as you look at it? It's getting multiplied. Very good, very good. So first of all, step 1, we want to undo any addition or subtraction that's outside of the absolute values. So this 3 is being added. So we need to subtract 3 and subtract 3 over here. This is reverse order of operations. When you're solving an equation, you use reverse order. So you undo addition or subtraction first. Yes, question? Yeah. So 3's cancel out. You have 5 times that absolute value, negative 2x plus 7, big absolute value equals 15. All right, now you want to undo that multiplication. So divide by 5, divide by 5. 5's cancel out. You have the absolute value of negative 2x plus 7. Keep those vertical lines in there. Make sure you have them a little bit bigger than just a 1 so you know it's not the number 1. That's equal to 3. All right, now you have, this is isolated. It is by itself on one side of the equation, right? That's where you can break it into the two cases. So negative 2x plus 7 is equal to, what's my first value going to be? Negative 3, right? And over on the other side, negative 2x plus 7 is equal to positive 3. Yes. And then you solve each one separately. So minus 7, negative 2x is equal to negative 10. Divide by negative 2. X is equal to 5. That's one solution. Or, then you do the other one. subtract 7, subtract 7. And remember, these should be different values. If you get the same value, that's probably not good. You probably made a mistake. So negative 2x is equal to negative 4. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. X is equal to 2. Okay. Any questions on that one? Undo addition, subtraction first, then undo any multiplication and division outside of those absolute values, and make sure you set them equal to the negative and the positive value. All right, I'm trying to think here. It's very difficult for me. Somewhere, let's go back up to, no, that's not it. Somewhere I thought there should be a negative. Let's do C. So I have absolute value 4x minus 7, end of absolute value, plus 10 equals 2. Subtract 10. You're undoing that addition. Crystal, you with me? Stay with me. Absolute value 4x minus 7 is equal to negative 8. Can you have an absolute value equal to a negative amount? No. So you don't have to do anything more here. The answer is no solution. Because you can't have an absolute value with a negative distance. Okay? You're like, yeah, give me more of those. Right? All right, let's do, let's see you try. Should I give you a tough one or an easier one? Why isn't that erasing? There we go. How about you try F on your own? F. I'll walk around to see how we're doing. You want to undo any addition. What's being added here first? I'll help you get started. What's being added? It's 6, right? Right now it's being added, so you need to subtract 6 from both sides. So start there, and I'll walk around and see if I can help you. Everybody trying number F, not number, letter F. All right, so first you subtract 6. You want to undo anything that's added. That 6 is just being added. And then we have 2 times that absolute value equals 20. Then you want to undo any multiplication or division. Divide by 2, I get absolute value of negative 4x minus 1 equals 10. This is where it is isolated. It is the only thing on that left-hand side. So now I can separate it and say, and this is where you can drop the bars, negative 4x minus 1 equals negative 10, and negative 4x minus 1 equals positive 10. Add 1, add 1. Negative 4x is equal to negative 9. Divide by negative 4, x is equal to a positive 9/4, or add 1, add 1. Negative 4x is equal to 11. You're like, neither of these divide evenly. That's okay. And x is equal to negative 11/4. Okay? All right. Questions on that? Does it make sense? Undo addition, subtraction. Undo any multiplication outside of absolute values. Once it's isolated, separate into your 2 cases. Set 1 equal to the negative amount, 1 equal to the positive amount, and solve both cases, okay? All right, so make sure you get homework number 1 done. And now you can begin working on homework number 2. I'm going to say this should be due, what is tomorrow? Wednesday? Thursday. So let's aim for that. I'm trying to upload the Canvas weekly activity. For some reason, it did not work for me, but I will get that going soon, okay?